President Donald Trump is beginning his first full week in office. He's tackling some big issues right out of the gate, and while he and his staff continues to stay focused on God.
We are going to do some great things over the next 8 years.
Despite protest over the weekend, Donald Trump is continuing his message of unity, speaking to his senior staff Sunday before they were sworn in.
We will face many challenges, but with the faith in each other and the faith in God, we will get the job done.
His chief of staff, Reince Priebus, referenced a Bible verse in his office.
That's from Isaiah 40:31. Those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. It is our duty to serve with character and integrity and to support President Trump as he places the interests of the American people first.
President Trump's first business day was all business. He met with CEOs and union leaders and pulled the United States out of a wide-ranging Pacific trade agreement.
All right, we're going to sign 3 memorandums right now.
With the stroke of his pen, Donald Trump took 3 executive actions: reinstating a Reagan-era ban on sending foreign aid to any overseas group that supports abortion rights, ordering a federal hiring freeze except within the military, and withdrawing the U.S. from a free trade deal with 11 Asia-Pacific countries.
Great thing for the American worker, what we just did.
Mr. Trump said he'd instead negotiate with countries one-on-one and told a gathering of CEOs that he'd reduce regulations and cut taxes.
Well, let's just talk for a moment, Josh, about the choreography of this. The White House allowed reporters to come in, shoot many of the corporate executives there representing Ford, Dell, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman, other major American corporations, and we all saw them in there. That's unusual. The Obama administration did not provide us that kind of access to see the business executives mingling among themselves and shaking hands with the president as he came in. Usually, we come in when everyone's seated and it's very formal. That choreography tells me a couple of things. One, the business executives are comfortable being seen at this White House with this president, and this president wants Americans to know he's comfortable sitting down with them. And when he said we're going to meet quarterly at the White House, he's suggesting that this topic, how to make more jobs in the United States, some of the manufacturing jobs, is going to be a consistent and persistent goal of his administration.
Meanwhile, President Trump has invited Netanyahu to visit him in Washington. This comes as rumors increase the White House may soon announce plans to move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem.
Trump invited Netanyahu to visit sometime in February during a phone call on Sunday between the two leaders. A statement from Washington said they had discussed ways to advance and strengthen the U.S.-Israel special relationship and security and stability in the Middle East. Netanyahu's office described the conversation as warm. The statements from both sides said they had discussed Iran. Absent from both statements was any mention of moving the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Earlier in the day, an Israeli television journalist tweeted that he had been told Washington would announce the move on Monday. But White House spokesman Sean Spicer said in a statement that they are at the very beginning stages of even discussing this subject. Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat said he applauded Trump and said it sent a clear message to the world that the U.S. recognizes Jerusalem as the indivisible capital of the State of Israel.
As part of Israeli confidence that the Trump administration will be far more supportive of further development in the Jewish state, permits have just been issued for the building of hundreds of housing units in 3 Jerusalem neighborhoods over the 1967 lines in areas the Palestinians claim for their future state. These same projects had been taken off the Jerusalem municipality's agenda at the last minute in December, following a personal request from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an effort to stymie any further friction with the outgoing administration of Barack Obama. Now that Trump's taken office, Jerusalem City Hall approved the construction of about 560 new homes in areas Israel sees as part of its undivided capital, but are unrecognized by the international community. The Palestinians are predictably denouncing the move.
Jordan's King Abdullah met with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Amman yesterday to discuss the relocation of the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Speaking to reporters after the meeting, Abbas said that the stated intention of American President Donald Trump to move the embassy, quote, is an important matter for the king and an important matter for us. There will be no alternative to coordinating and articulating action points with one another to fight any steps that, if acted upon, would have severe ramifications, end quote. The two heads of state emphasized the importance of coordination with the Trump administration and United States Congress. The Republican-dominated Congress has already introduced a bill that would move the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, which is likely to pass as Republicans control both the Senate and House of Representatives.
On Monday, the new U.S. administration of President Donald Trump declared that the United States would prevent China from taking over territory in international waters in the South China Sea. In response to a question as to whether Trump agreed with comments by Secretary of State Rex Tillerson that China should not be allowed access to islands it has built in the contested South China Sea, White House spokesman Sean Spicer said it's a question of if those islands are in fact in international waters and not part of China proper, then yeah, we're going to make sure that we defend international territories from being taken over by one country.
Well, right now, the Trump administration is facing a dire warning from North Korea in its very first week. The North Koreans are threatening to, quote, pour further misery on the U.S., and a warning coming 49 years after North Korea captured a Navy ship. It's the USS Pueblo. This as South Korea warns that the North is developing nuclear weapons at an unprecedented pace. So what is notable? We've heard from North Korea on and off over the last several years. Why do you think this particular warning is notable?
Well, this comes at the beginning of the Trump administration. The North Koreans obviously want to test what Trump's intentions are towards Pyongyang. And the other thing that's important about this is that the Chinese are helping the North Koreans. The Chinese have provided nuclear weapons technology, fissile material, all sorts of plans for mobile missile launchers and other things. And so basically we're facing a challenge, not just from Pyongyang, but from Beijing as well.
South Korea says that it cannot postpone the deployment of a U.S. anti-missile system in the face of North Korea's nuclear threats, despite China's objection to the move.
Now it's an imminent threat. When it comes to North Korea's nuclear issues, now is not the time for dialogues. We should stop it and work with the international society so that North Korea would give up the nuclear development.
Huang also said there are some concerns about China's response to the matter and more time is needed to address it. Seoul and Washington say that that is designed to protect South Korea from North's nuclear and ballistic attacks. China, however, says that THAAD's powerful radar can penetrate its own territory.
The former North Korean deputy ambassador to the UK, Tae Yong-ho, who recently defected to South Korea, has expressed confidence the regime will completely collapse and reunification will happen within 5 years.
As said, North Korea, as we know, will cease to exist as soon as the Kim Jong-un regime crumbles down.
Now all North Korean people and high-ranking officials know quite well that the current hereditary system has nothing to do, with true communism.
Former diplomat added the reunification of the two Koreas is more feasible than ever, as there's no other person in the Kim family to succeed Kim Jong-un's position. Tae entered South Korea in August last year and revealed that his disillusionment with Kim's reign of terror prompted his defection.
Russia's foreign minister says the new U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, hold the same views on many foreign policy issues. Russia's foreign minister made the remarks at a press conference with his Hungarian counterpart in Moscow. According to Lavrov, both Trump and Putin seek to pursue the interests of their respective countries rather than interfere in the domestic affairs of others.
The U.S. government has denied helping Russia carry out recent airstrikes in Syria, but President Trump's administration is apparently open to the idea. Russia's defense ministry said Monday it bombed an ISIS position in Syria after receiving coordinates from the U.S.-led anti-ISIS coalition. But the U.S. Department of Defense insists it's not coordinating attacks with Russia. The two countries currently communicate in Syria just enough to keep their air forces out of each other's way, but that's about it. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer did say the U.S. might be open to future cooperation against ISIS with Russia.
If there's a way that we can combat ISIS with any country, whether it's Russia or anyone else, and we have a shared national interest in that, sure, we'll take it.
And Russia's been working more and more closely with Turkey, another coalition member. The two countries have flown joint airstrike missions together, and they're spearheading a round of peace talks between the Syrian regime and opposition forces in Kazakhstan.
There's been an early success at the Syrian peace talks in Astana, as armed opposition groups are for the first time not only directly participating in the dialogue, but also sitting at the same table as their key rivals, the Assad government. Here on the video you can see this is Mohammed Alouche, the representative of one of the most influential opposition rebel groups, Jaish al-Islam.
Terrorist groups. Sharp words used by the Syrian government's representative in the first moments of peace talks here in Astana, the capital of Kazakhstan. Following opening speeches, rebel groups refused to sit face-to-face with government representatives, citing Syria's continued bombardment near Damascus. Instead, both sides spoke through intermediaries.
The delegations went into two separate rooms, one for the opposition and the Turks, the other for the government and the Russians, and several issues about stabilizing and upholding the ceasefire.
A 3-week-long fragile ceasefire across Syria, brokered by Russia, Turkey and Iran, has paved the way for these talks, and their continuation has been the main focus for both parties.
Turkey backs the Syrian opposition, while Russia and Iran support Bashar al-Assad. 14 rebel groups are attending. But even before the talks started, one key rebel group close to Turkey, Ahrar al-Sham, refused to participate.
We are not looking for a simple solution to these old issues, but we are striving to bring the positions of the sides involved in the Syrian conflict closer together. That is, the positions of the Syrian government and armed opposition groups.
Al-Assad has called for the Syrian opposition to lay down their weapons in exchange for amnesty. The opposition says their focus is on bolstering a ceasefire brokered last year by Turkey and Russia. They have said they will not be discussing President Bashar al-Assad's future or enter political dialogue. The Astana peace talks are being touted as a test for the new Turkish-Russia partnership. The two sides have found a common enemy, the Islamic State group, and conducted for the first time joint airstrikes against the jihadists last month.
Theresa May was told about a Trident test missile misfiring. That's according to her spokesperson. Earlier, the Prime Minister had refused to say whether she'd been aware of the failure ahead of a parliamentary vote on whether to renew Britain's nuclear deterrent. May faced some uncomfortable questions during an interview with the BBC.
Did you know that misfire had occurred?
Well, I have absolute faith in our Trident missiles.
Did you know about it when you told the House of Commons?
And the issue that we were talking about in the House of Commons was a very serious issue.
Did you know?
There are tests that take place all the time.
In a recent report, the Sunday Times claims the UK government covered up an alarming failure of a nuclear missile test just weeks before the vote on the system's renewal. Trident is the UK's nuclear defence system based in Scotland. It's comprised of 4 nuclear-armed submarines. But they're approaching the end of their working lives and are due for decommissioning in the next decade. Despite enormous costs, last summer the UK Parliament voted overwhelmingly to renew the system. In the run-up to the vote, Theresa May repeatedly stressed Trident's reliability and claimed there were no alternatives.
Some people suggest to us that we should actually be removing our nuclear deterrent. This has been a vital part of our national security and defence for nearly half a century now. A review of alternatives to Trident, undertaken in 2013, found that no alternative system is as capable, resilient or cost-effective as a Trident-based deterrent.
News in that the Clinton Foundation is shutting down one of its departments in April. The Clinton Global Initiative was planned to be a non-profit charity, but its foreign donors, it seems, have been pulling out after Hillary Clinton's loss in the US election.
Our commitment is to connect 1 million refugees by 2015.
100 million children in 100 countries be financially aware.
Bring solar power to Buchan-Carré, Haiti.
Empowering NGOs to distribute their funds to the people really in need.
Opportunities for 340 girls in Congo.
Now, the Clinton Foundation was doing very well until recently, but it's suddenly fallen on hard times. It usually brings in hundreds of millions of dollars. But the government of Australia has ended its partnership with the Clinton Foundation, and Norway has drastically reduced its contributions. Documents show that this foundation, which operates all over the planet, recruited a mere 5 new donors in 2016's final quarter. Donations to the Clinton Foundation are drying up. April 17th will be the last day of the Clinton Global Initiative. So is world hunger solved? All the diseases cured? Mission accomplished? Or is it that those good friends of ours won't be enjoying the perks they were expecting with someone else in the Oval Office?
Hands have been shaken, hatchets have been buried, and as painful as it's been for her, Hillary Clinton has witnessed a peaceful transfer of power take place. Now, what's next for the Clinton dynasty? According to Politico, Clinton is still reeling from her painful election loss and won't be focusing on partisan issues for quite some time. Rather, the former Secretary of State is still studying what exactly caused her to lose in the hopes of avoiding repeated mistakes. Conversations have taken place with former President Obama's initiative Organizing for Action to see about potential work opportunities. Clinton has also reportedly voiced her desire to help grow young party leaders and streamline a tattered Democratic National Committee. Politico reports the Clintons will largely stay out of the race for a new DNC head, given how sensitive the issue of leaked emails involving Bernie Sanders was. Friends also say the Clintons are unlikely to ever run for office again. Rather, the family will support their friends in midterm and gubernatorial races.
Saying such movements could result in the election leaders like Germany's Adolf Hitler, Pope Francis has warned against growing populism in Europe. Pope Francis's warnings come as a wave of populism washes over Europe. Voters angry with traditional political elites have thrown their weight behind nationalist anti-immigrant leaders. In an in-depth interview with Spanish newspaper El País, the pontiff said, quote, "In times of crisis, we lack judgment, and that is a constant reference for me," end quote. The Pope added, "Hitler didn't steal the power. His people voted for him, and then he destroyed his people."
On Monday, China reinforced its Great Firewall by announcing that virtual private networks, or VPNs, are illegal in the country unless they are authorized by the government. Popular sites like Facebook, Twitter, Wikipedia, and YouTube are all blocked by China's Great Firewall, which also censors search terms deemed sensitive by the government. Due to this limited access, many Chinese users had resorted to using VPNs, which bypass the censorship firewall. However, these services are now the target of a 14-month quote-unquote cleanup campaign to crack down on unauthorized internet connection. The new regulation renders nearly all VPN providers in China illegal.
Researchers are sounding the alarm about worldwide infectious disease outbreak preparedness after analysis of reports on the response to the Ebola virus outbreak in West Africa revealed several critical problems. Swery Moon of the Graduate Institute of International and Development Studies in Geneva, Switzerland, and a team of researchers have recommended strengthening compliance with the international health regulations, improving outbreak-related research and information sharing, reforming the World Health Organization, and broadening the humanitarian response system. The team has urged the world to mobilize greater resources and put in place monitoring and accountability mechanisms to ensure we are better prepared for the next pandemic.
We all know apples turn color pretty quickly after slicing them, and if you hate that, you'll love these non-browning ones. Arctic apples are the first genetically modified apples, and agricultural site Capital Press says the fruit will go on sale in the U.S. next month. Certain varieties of apples under the Arctic brand were approved by the USDA in 2015, and the first harvest was collected last fall. They've been modified to brown less quickly compared to the normal apples and will be sold pre-sliced in grab-and-go pouches. So how do they do it? Well, scientists shut down the genes responsible for producing an enzyme known as polyphenol oxidase, or PPO. When an apple is sliced or bruised, PPO reacts with chemicals in the fruit and produces that browning effect. So by stopping the production of PPO, Arctic apples age and brown much slower, becoming fully oxidized after 3 weeks.
Tonight, the Deep South is reeling after tornadoes swept through over the weekend. At least 44 twisters were reported. 19 people were killed, more than were killed by tornadoes in the United States in all of last year.
It's terrible to look up. Yeah, the outside is inside.
More than Shirlene Davis's heart raced when the twister hit Sunday afternoon. She and her husband Edgar kept moving room to room, away from their collapsing roof.
What was it like to be on that floor as the roof was falling down on you?
I went into survival mode.
I can't explain it. You just, all your nerves, emotions just come to the top of the surface. You just don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And then when it was all over, you know, we looked and came outside and looked speechless.
The tornado flattened neighborhoods from Louisiana to central Georgia.
Hello, you under the house?
Overnight teams searched by flashlight for victims and survivors. 7 people were found dead in this trailer park in Adel, Georgia, including Amanda Rowe. Deborah Tinsley Powell is her sister.
She had the best smile, and she just loved my children so much.
We need a lot of help here in Dougherty County.
Briscoe Heelis, the county chairman, posted video he took on Facebook of the Paradise Village mobile home park. 4 people were killed here.
It literally looks like God took half of the mobile home park and threw it across the street into the woods.
The Davises feel grateful to be alive, but their home of 35 years is now gone in one violent minute.
What are you going to do?
Trust in the Lord and move on.
I'm standing outside the Davises' battered house, but take a look. Many of their neighbors face the same hardship and heartache. Scott, thousands of people in this community will be rebuilding for months after a tornado strike one local official compared to a nuclear bomb.
You can see, this is how he starts his day.
An elderly street vendor in Chicago can retire his cart for good after this photo prompted people to give him more than $170,000. 89-year-old Fidencio Sanchez was selling Mexican ice pops when a customer named Joel spotted him and took a picture. Joel says it broke his heart to see a man his age still working.
Every summer he always comes back, and he's always really, hardworking about this.
After talking to the vendor, he learned the man's daughter had recently passed away and wife had fallen ill. With a goal of $3,000, Joel set up a GoFundMe page, and in less than an hour, that number was reached. Since then, more than 7,000 people have offered money, and Joel says the man and his wife are both grateful and shocked.